everybody. Before we going to have a lecture, let us introduce ourselves first.
We are PAVA architects. I am Pacharapan.
I'm Varat Limbiboon.
Let me introduce myself first. I studied Bachelor of Architecture in Interior Architecture at Chulalongkorn University. After graduation, I worked with Architect Kitty as architect and interior architect profession in Thailand. Later, I went to study master degree in urban design at ASA Zurich. After graduation, we start PAVA Architects in 2018.
We studied the same undergrad school. I studied architecture from Chulalongkorn University, first class honor. And then I have a chance to work with Architect 49 for a few years. And then I moved to study abroad for master degree, landscape architecture, Harvard Graduate School of Design, Harvard University. And then I have a chance to work with big Bijake in Gale and then come back to open the office with Tris today. Okay, let's start the lecture now.
Okay. Firstly, we have to say thank you, ASA, for inviting us to be part of the forum this year. It's an our honor to be here and tell the story of Gaomai Estate 1955. This project is an adaptive reuse of the 66 years old tobacco drying estate in Tung Siau community of San Patong, Chiang Mai. Our office called PAVA Architects. PAVA in Thai means state of being. We try to understand the states and the real values of every project we work on.
I think before we going to talk about this project in very detail, I would like to have this chance to talk about our design philosophy and our design standpoint. So I think PAVA do believe in the critical practice of architecture and design. And what is the critical practice of the design? It means that the design need to represent multi-dimension of the context, not only of the form, space, and order of the architecture, but we need to represent the invisible layer of environment, politics, economics, and culture, and so on. And this picture is very important for us. From the top level, we see the beautiful symbiosis between architecture and the landscape. But it's impossible for us for deciding everything from the bird's eye view. So from this level, we need to land ourselves down to the middle level to see people over there looking at the signage. You see the repetition of the architectural order. You see the band typology of 6 meter by 6 meter and the gap of 6 meter. But it's not enough for us. We need to land ourselves on the ground condition. We have to feel the wetness. We have to see the sky. We have to see the dirt. We have to see the thing that living together as a holistic system of the design. So that is our position.
So we work with many stakeholders and professions to ensure that this conservation project is going on a holistic approach and a sustainable way. The UNESCO Asia Pacific Award also gives us morale and endorse us that Gaomai Estate is an inspired model for rescuing and repurposing an overlooked and disappearing industrial typology by combining a commitment to conservation with a contemporary design aesthetic. Thanks to the owner family that keep this heritage intact until nowadays, especially Jakcha Sathiragun, who initiated this project. Thanks to Gaomai team for helping us on the research, assistance, and all coordination. Thanks to our friends Pachala and Supawadi for helping us initiate the tree and building conservation method, especially for this project. Thanks to our team, PAVA team, for the new and old design in heritage context. Most importantly, everyone here, even more than on this list. This is Chiang Mai from above in 1988. This is the location of Gaomai Estate, and this is the inner city of Chiang Mai. We can see here most areas were in greenery. This is Chiang Mai nowadays. The urban development has transformed Chiang Mai from the center of the city, expanding to the arterial highways, encroaching on the small villages, including Tung Siêu community. Gaomai Estate aimed to conserve the coexistence between the architectural and natural heritage intact, creating the heritage oasis in this area that contain more than 100 species of plants and more than 50 species of birds and wildlife in the middle of the new development surrounding them. We have to start with the history of the tobacco, which is so important for this project. Tobacco has been in Thai people life for longer than 7th century. It was around 1930 when the Virginia breed of tobacco was introduced in Thailand. To counter the influx of the imported tobacco, resulted in the quick spread of the tobacco farming and the processing barns in the northern part of Thailand. Gaomai Estate legacy started at that time in 1955 to serve as a tobacco drying industry of the Tung Siêu community. At the beginning it's called Mapping Yasu, later changed to Tung Siêu Farm. This area contained 50 tobacco drying barns and lasts until 1992. After the barn stopped processing, the tree conservation has started because of the owner's business and his passion in biodiversity. Later, in 1997, tourism has started booming in Chiang Mai. So the Gaomai Lana Resort started at that time to adapt the 18 tobacco drying barn into resort to serve hospitality industry. Later in 2016, the project Gaomai Estate 1955 started to transform the other 15 tobacco drying barns into museum and many kinds of recreational spaces to serve the historical and ecological tourism. This is a trade house photo in the site in the past, where hundreds of workers, hundreds of farmers and buyers gathers in day and night to make a living from tobacco drying business. This turned this area into the socio-economic center of the community. This old photo shows how this estate operated in the past. They combined the tobacco leaf with the tobacco drying stick. Then they put them into the barn and climbing up to hang them on the walls and heat them by heat radiation from the fuel pipe on the lower parts. There are 3 generations of tobacco drying barn in this estate. The first generation, the wall made of rattle and dog, because it's so easy to find this kind of material at that area. The next generation, the wall are made of bricks. We can see here there are different heights of the barns depending on the demands of the tobacco drying leaf at that time. If the demand increased, the volume can be expanded. Until nowadays, we can still see the trace of the gable here to show that that barn used to be a small one. This is the last generation of the tobacco drying barn. The wall made of concrete blocks. The wall materials of the barns have changed over time because of the availability of the material and construction technique at that time. After the end of the tobacco industry, most of the building turned to be warehouse to store equipment in the plantation period. Some barns turned to be resort covered with the climbing plants as our memorable image when thinking of Gaomai. Some barns are abandoned and dilapidated. On the structure and walls are cracking and flaking by aging and weathering. This image, these charming, beautiful barns coexisting with the big tree that cover this barn with the big canopy still remain in our memories. This is our impressive photo in the past. We impressed by the rich nature that lives together with the tobacco drying bunds in the different edges. We realize this mutual combination is the core value of this area, and the symbiosis between the big trees and barns are the real sense and spirit of this place.
Okay, before I talking about the master plan, I want to tell a story. The first time that we visited site so many years ago, we walked through the site with the client. We see so many things happening on site. We hear the sound of the wind. We hear the sound of the bird. We see the beauty coexistence of architecture, landscape, and animals. And suddenly, the client asks us, "Okay, PAVA, which building that we need to transform and adapt to be a Gaomai museum?" I think that is very good and interesting question. We pause and we think, but we overwhelmed by this holistic system and beauty of the site. So we answered to the client that it's not just the only single building that need to be a museum, but the whole site need to be a museum. The site at the museum is our idea to approach all of the educational program on this site. So we decide to step back a little bit to draw and map the representation drawing here. That this drawing is represent the true scale of the building and the tree height. We understand the relationship between the tree and the building. We notice some of the open spaces. We see all the activities, and then we come to analyze all of the information and detail on site. Starting from the first diagram on your left-hand side here, you see the brown color is mean the high point condition. This high point condition is very dry, it's very suitable for the conservation area. On the other hand, the water basically flow from the high point and going down to the low point here to the street. So that means that the land is going to be sloped like this. We found out many low point condition. The low point condition is like a valley that can contain the rainwater. So we have an idea to suggest to have a farming area and wild preservation area. And because of that topographical analysis and hydrological analysis, we start to divide the program of the new master plan here. On the high point is the conservation area. These open spaces and low point condition is suitable for the farming. Here is a wild preservation area. There's so many species of plant happening here. The area that sit next to the street is going to be the parking lot and services area here, surrounded by the Gaomai Hotel and Resort. It's kind of challenging situation that very super private program are sit in the middle of the public program. So we kind of create like a big roof of circulation on the right-hand diagram that this public circulation surrounded the private program in the middle. And we kind of minimize the parking footprint. We want to minimize the accessibility of the car here, but be aware that we need to design the circulation for all generation of people, from young generation to elderly and to the disabled people. That means this big loop of circulation provided the golf cart circulation that all people can access all the program. Besides this big loop of circulation, we promote bike lane and the pathway, the pedestrian, that we want people to walk on the site and see the beauty of the symbiosis of architecture and landscape. So the next diagram, we record and analyze all of the existing tree condition. You can see the big canopy of tree here contrast with the small canopy of tree. We start to understand the history, the multi-decade of the tree, tamarind tree, very beautiful, very powerful rain tree here beside the Gaomai area resort. So we start to understand that the tree performs itself as a landmark that links many programs together. It's very critical for us. The next diagram is talking about the existing structural building condition. From the gray color that we need to preserve, the yellow pale color we need to adapt it, reuse, and the orange color we need to introduce a new design because of the context that is so different from each other. And the last diagram is talking about the directional signage system on site. It's talking about outdoor landscape furniture. It's talking about the lighting design system because we want people to see the museum, not only in one single building, but all the whole site. So walkable way, pathway, pedestrian way, bike lane, and all of the lighting and signage system need to integrate it as a one single system.
After a series of the surveys and research with our consultant, we proposed a subtle design intervention into this estate. We do not demolish any barns. We preserve all the healthy big trees to remain and keep the spirit of this place and continue to pass on to the next generation. This is the elevation of every barn on this site. We set the different degrees of design intervention into each barn on a case-by-case basis. For example, if the barns are in fair condition, we preserve it as it is and we just clean and repair some small parts. If they are so decayed and dilapidated, we have to restore them and replicate some missing parts as original. Most importantly, we respect the specificity and the authenticity of every barn in terms of dimension, in terms of the volume, form, in terms of function, and the repetitive planning typology here. This is the collage that show the past and the present of Gaomai. In the past, this area was a dry land because of the heat radiation from the barns. And the barns look like this, is so distinctive in terms of its form and function. And there is also a small well here to contain water for heat reduction. When they want to cool down the barn after drying process, they use this water. After the barn stop processing, the trees start growing by naturally seeded and human planted. Every original barns are preserved and some barns were added by the new design of the dark gray steel to strengthen the existing reinforced concrete structure and to differentiate the new and old conditions. For the preservation part, we work with our building conservation consultant Supawadi to survey the existing condition and set the different degrees of design intervention toward each barn. Fortunately, most of the buildings are in fair condition thanks to its location on the high point and thanks to the tree density surrounding them that help protect this building against the strong winds. However, if they have some cracking or flaking part or leak part on the roof, they need to be repaired. This is an example of the minimum intervention into the barn. We respect the originality of the barn by preserving the 6 by 6 meter size barns on the plan, and we preserve its volume with the gable roof on top. We reinstall the original fixture here. That is the furnace, the small door, the tobacco hanging stick, and the metal fuel pipe here. This is the real photo of that drawing, that we preserve all of the original elements and coexist with the big trees. We can see here the real furnace, the fuel pipe here, and the small well. Inside the barn, we restore every single original element inside to show the mechanism of this tobacco drying barn in the past. This one is a metal fuel pipe here on the lower part, and we also reinstall the tobacco hanging stick on top. A number of these sticks show us that there are lots of demand for tobacco drying leaf in the past. This volume was so dark in the past. When we want to open to the public to learn about this space, we install the new lighting design to illuminate the authentic space and exhibit them to the public. We also replicate the small door as original. Every voice in the barns we preserve as original, starting with the fresh air inlet part on the lower part of the barn. This is the observation window that we cover with the expanded metal and anchor steel to prevent the animal entry. On the walls, we preserve all the small hole here because it's quite fascinating for us and show how the tobacco hanging sticks hang on the wall. For the floor material, we use gravel to allow water absorption. We also reinstall the new elements of the drainage system around the barns to prevent the damp penetration into the barn. This is the last generation of the tobacco drying estate. The wall made of concrete blocks. We still keep the trace as it is. This is the trace of the original furnace. At the beginning, it was semi-circular shape because it served fired wood fuel. Later, when they changed into lignite fuel, they changed into a square one. For the craftsmanship on the site, a number of the former workers and artisans were invited to reunite in this place. They gave us advice and detailed information about the history of the site, about the local construction techniques. For example, for this decade, rattle and dart wall, we replaced them with the original bamboo weaving technique and with the local plaster formula. After interview with the former owner and the former worker, we got a lot of useful information to restore this place. And of course, for the uniqueness scenery like this, that the barn coexists with the rich nature, we definitely maintain. To pass on this legacy to the next generation, we designed the descriptive signs and the exhibition panels both inside and outside the barn to tell the story and the history of each barn and to show the construction technique we use in each building. Most importantly, the rows of the tobacco drying barns in different ages along the historic routes exhibit itself as the real witnesses and evidence of times. From our adaptive reuse strategy, this is the minimum design intervention to preserve the originality, value, and authenticity of tobacco drying barns. To the next level, these diagrams show the minimum to the maximum intervention into the tobacco drying barns. The white parts show that we reuse the original element, and the black part show that we insert the new design from adaptive programs.
Okay, as Trish mentioned before about the degree of design intervention from the minimum on the left-hand side to the maximum design intervention on the right-hand side, I'm gonna talk in detail step by step. Okay, for the first one is the minimum one. We want to preserve and keep the barn typology originality. So the only thing that we reinstall everything that it used to be, like fire furnace, metal pipe, tobacco drying stick. On the next one is Gaomai Museum. We insert the new structure for the future expansion area. And at the center, we have the 3-meter wide of the exhibition panel. For the library barn, we following the minimum intervention, so we have an idea to integrate the bookshelf and the new design steel structure together in order to minimize the design footprint. The cow barn is another interesting design that we utilize the existing concrete brick and flipping it up to be a canopy of this building. For T-barn, we sunken to humble connect of the ground condition together, and we have upper level to connect another F&B experience on the other level. For the resort, I'm gonna talk in detail later, but we want to keep the memorable facade outside and reshuffle and redesign interior a little bit. For the trade house, it's all about the connectivity. We want to connect between Gaomai Hotel and Gaomai Estate together. So we introduce a new flexible space that allow people to come to have a fun activity together. So here is the first one, Gaomai Museums. The existing condition is very fair. The structure is quite good. And when we walking into the inside of the building, we are shocked and very stunned by the powerful of the volume. We see the light penetration from the wall here that come into the space. It looks so amazing, and we want to keep this spirit of place. So we talk with the structural engineers and the client. Okay, we want to keep this space, the scent of the space. So we just remove the roof and we insert the steel structure one by one here. And after finish the installation, you can see the existing volume with the new I-beam dark gray steel structure. All the side is the same, the brick is the same, the roof structure, the timber roof structure is the same thing as well. We replace the roof back. We want to show the people the differentiation between the new dark gray color and the existing one. Okay, people walk in and can know that, okay, this is the old one, this is the new one. We want to highlight the new and old condition. And when we walk through the space, we see the frontal exhibition panel. We keep the appreciation of the darkness on top and very light condition on the ground. We keep off the wall, we keep the penetration of light. This exhibition panel is 3 meters wide in order to help people understand what's going on the Gaomai Estate 1955. The diagram talking about the chronological timeline from what happening in the past and what happening right now. Here is another angle that's seeing the exhibition panel. We keep the air inlet here, the existing one, the wall for the tobacco hanging stick, the observation that people need to look inside the activity that happening in the past here. I think this picture is very important for us. Like when you stand at night outside of the building, you see the light in contrast to the daytime. It penetrates from the inside to the outside. It's kind of important to remind people what's happening in the past. Like when the drying process happened, the light from that process come out the building. And I think this is very, very, very crucial for people to understand the history of it. The next degree of intervention is the Gao Ban. It's another retail and commercial program. We accept the reality that we have to connect and we have to open the wall, open the view for people. It's not used to drying the tobacco anymore. It's used for the public program. So we start to look at the existing condition. And many people appreciate the brick typology, but we think that this concrete brick is also very nice as well. So we come up with the design to flipping this existing wall up to be the canopy to connect the trade house here, Cao Ban, and the cafe at the back of us. The spiral circulation is kind of minimize the vertical footprint of the design as well. The next is the T-Ban, is our ongoing design process, and it's now constructing right now on site. The T-Ban position is very critical. It's located next to the Gaomai Cafe, Amphitheater, and the Gaomai Avenue. So we kind of introduce the subtle sunken space that connect all the ground condition together. And we have the upper level that, okay, we maximize, we increase the capacity of retail program. And ultimately, we have the sky bridge that connect the cafe to the T-Ban and the future expansion phase. Here is the on-site ongoing construction process. Here he is Kun Nin. He is our brave contractor that helped us so many times during so many years. He set up the scaffolding right now, and we discussed with him so many times that and found out the condition of the structure is not quite good for the public program. So we start to use the reconstruction technique that we measure everything from the column, the beam, the size of the brick, the gap of the mortar, and we ask him to remove a set of brick down and label everything in order to like use this set of brick and reinstall, reconstruct everything as it used to be, but fit to the future program of the retail area. Here is the section perspective. You can see the humble sunken here that connects the people from the amphitheater and the Gaomai Avenue at the back. You can see that this sunken technique is kind of highlight the essential volume of the T-bar here. We introduce very small intervention of the lighting design here. We use the existing brick at the facade of the building. Here on the upper level is the increase the capacity of the retail. This one is contrast to the Gaomai Museum that we introduced the dark gray color of the steel with the existing brick. But here we want to have a subtle contrast of the very raw of the brick surface, brick texture contrast with the new. It's not kind of modern, it's kind of more smoother. It's kind of the contrast of the texture of the materiality here. And it's kind of nice to have a feeling of drinking tea and feeling the ground condition as well. Here is the Gaomai Resort. We have 2 degrees of intervention, but both of them we try to preserve the memorable vertical green. And the first degree of intervention, we just introduce the experience of the tobacco drying barn. But on the other side, we kind of utilize the maximum space of the building. We integrate all of the M&E, the mechanical engineer, the sanitary system, the electrical system within the bathroom as a one single core to minimize the M&E footprint. And we maximize the room area and link this room together to gain the experience of the full height of the tobacco drying barn. Here is the memorable picture. When people talking about Gaomai, I can guarantee that people thinking about this image of the coexistence between the vertical green contrast with the very small wall opening here. I think it's kind of nice. We want to keep it, but on the other hand, inside is totally change the atmosphere. The lightness becomes the darkness. We want to keep the sense of the darkness. We bring the wall of the tobacco drying stick back to let the light from the sunlight come inside a little bit. But the exposed brick here will contrast with the experience of the bathing in the granite bathtub here. And the final of the design intervention is the biggest one. As Trish mentioned before, this trade house is a place for socio-economic center of the community. People come here selling the tobacco leaf, people buying tobacco leaf. We want to bring that sense back. But as a new terms of the program, we want to create a flexible space that have a multi-level of the activities here. The location is very important. It sits in between the Gaomai Hotel here, and at the back is the Gaomai Estate here. It's kind of center point that link every program together. We keep the existing timber structure, very open space here, open plan, have adaptable partition, adjustable ceiling, and the solar panel on the top. We think this location is very critical because this roof open to the sunlight. It's you can see from the first slide that there are a few of the roof that open to the clear sunlight. So this is the opportunity to have some of the sustainable design that can generate the electricity to support and sustain the whole Gaomai projects here.
Gaomai Estate aims to revitalize this abandoned area and want to resume the roles of being the center of this community again by providing the visitor with a series of the sustainable tourism program and recruit the local employments. We can see here there are many educational and recreational programs that we design to attract the local and visitor to come, such as the art workshop, music and cuisine. These things aim to remind the visitor and locals about their cultural roots. Also would like to raise the awareness of the human and nature relationships. In these spaces, they can contain many kinds of activity, such as the local farmer market that promote the local products, even the many kinds of cultural ceremony that can happen among the natural setting and among the architectural heritage under the big shades of the trees.
I think this picture is very important. It tells so many stories. It's the multi-decade rain tree that sits next to the Gaomai Hotel and Resort. And this tree is very healthy. It represents the owner vision that all of the sizable tree, except the unhealthy one, we cannot cut it out at all. He's passionate about the tree. It's very the real thing that we need to tackle on. And because of that vision, we will have a very nice symbiosis between the tropical climate, tropical vegetation, and the architecture. Not only for the first generation of barn, but all the site happen at the same time. Like the coexistence of this atmosphere is very important, and it represents the spirit of the place. It turned itself to be the memorable picture that, okay, when we think about Gaomai, it's the tree for sure, it's the building for sure, it's the sound of the animal for sure. And in order to maintain that healthy ecosystem, thanks to our friend Pachara, that we invent the primary and secondary tree survey and assessment.
For the primary survey and assessment, we focus on the physical health of the tree as like we can perceive from their appearance, and we focus on their value, that it can be a local representative of the site or it can be a landmark of the site. For the second survey and assessment, we focus on the physical health of the tree also, but more in detail, and focus on the surrounding target impact that the tree can cause.
Yeah, after we knowing like what type of this species of tree it is, we know the height of the tree, we know the canopy, we know the health condition of the tree, so we record and label everything on the diagram here. You can see the number here that indicate the status of the tree, and that link to the table that Trish previously showed in the past slide. And then we have to use this chance to thank to Dr. Kongkanda and Kunji Rapon and other botanists to help us like record, survey, and label all the tree. As we mentioned before, that this project is talking about the site as a museum. We don't want to limit the educational program inside the one single building. So this is very important, the exhibition object that populate that surround the site. And we have to thank to the owner for the very huge effort to maintain the tree. Here is the arboriculture technique that we use and maintain the tree, not only from the crown raising technique, directional pruning, thinning technique, in order to make the tree to stabilize itself. We don't want to use the steel bracing structure to the tree in order to make it stable, but we kind of use the tree itself to balance itself, because that steel bracing technique that destroy the memorial space of the place. As a result, we get a very good, very healthy ecosystem here, architecture, tree, and many things. So because of that, we are not surprised at all that we found out 100 of healthy plant species and more than 50 species of birds and wildlife. Thanks to our specialist survey team and Thai Bird Conservation Society of Thailand that help us check and record all the information here. And we are so happy and very surprised that we found out the white ram chama bird, which is the indicator of the good, healthy woodland ecology here.
So for the last part, this building designed by tree architect and Gotchawan. It was an only twin barns in this site, and the designer changed the concrete block wall into the transparent glass walls to connect the historic wood with the new amphitheater. We designed the exhibition inside as a summary of the exhibition routes and as a summary of the timeline of this project. Next would be Shma design for the new landscape in Gaomai Estate 1955. Lastly, we have to say thank you for everyone who helping us shape this project, and thank for ASA again for for this great opportunity.
Thank you.
My name is Namchai Sansupa. I am the director of Shma Company Limited and Shma SOM, which was responsibility for landscape design of the Gaomai Estate 1995 project. Gaomai has been well known for quite a long time for its green facade building hotels, which was turned from the tobacco curing barns into the hotel for more than 20 years ago. And it has been a famous photo spot for a long time. And the second generation of owner, he wanted to utilize for this popularity by adding the new functions of the unused space at the back of the hotel, which you can see from the plan here that the green area was the area of the current hotel, and the brown area at the back, which comprises of the old curing barns, were not utilized and was abandoned somewhat. The photo spot is here, the connection between the hotels and this trading building, the tobacco trading building, and the new owner, the son generation, he wanted to build a cafe here, which was facing the main open space of the project. And at the same time, he had an idea that he wanted to create the new attractions to attract more people. At first, when we were contacted by this client, he said that he wanted to build a maze at the back area so as to draw more people to the project. So anyway, I think it is quite a good idea, and we would like to check out the space and see how it was. And we did some research online and found out that some of the people said that the place is haunted. So anyway, we went to the site visit, and this is what we saw. This is the area at the back of the site, which comprises of two generations of the curing barns. The first one is the bamboo weaving together with plaster. And the second generation is the brick, which majority of the existing structures now, and part of them was turned into the hotel a long time ago. And the third generation, the newest generation, was made from the concrete block. For example, this one. The one in the picture here is a special one because it is the only structure in the compound that was the double space, the two curing barns combined into one. And the client will turn this structure into the cafe. This is the photo of the cafe facing the open space. There are some big trees here. This unused space that was occasionally used as the car park when it's an event, big event for the hotel. As we were designing the landscape, the cafe was construction was ongoing, and this is the photo that we took during some of the site visits. And not only the curing barn that is existing on the site, one of the very interesting building is the trading building, the big light structure roof, which were used for trading in the past, but now it is unused and became the storage of the collectibles by the client's owner. Anyway, the structure, the facings, the combination of the facade was very interesting. As you can see in the photo here, it's made from the old doors and windows. But not only the building, I think the traces of time. For example, the coexistence of building and trees are very interesting also. But in this photo, you can clearly see the problem of the site. You see that at the base of the building, it became green and dark, which was the result of the moisture on the ground that was seepage into the building. So the solution for this is quite simple. We added the cut-off drain to prevent further damage. And this is the overall of the second generation rows of curing barns made from brick. We thought that the building and the space itself, it's in a very good combinations, and we didn't want to change much. We didn't want to touch hard on anything. So just to make it more functional, make it more usable and durable. For example, the walkway, the existing one was just the compact soil. So we propose just the granite chips and concrete. We select them for the reason for their durability and also their muted colors, just to differentiate old from new. The top row is the old materials, and the below one is the new ones. So this is the after picture of the alley walkway. You will see that the building and the new trees are kept there. The new walkway was inserted, but more or less everything looks almost the same. Not only the building that was valuable in terms of history and time and age, but the trees in the site has all the history as well. It gives the atmosphere and the sense of place to the projects. And also it has a very close relationship to the our clients. For example, a growth of the teak trees here were planted by the new owner when he was very young. You can see him in the photo as well. And around the project, the father of the owner, he has been planting trees for more than 30 years. So scattered around the project were the handsome various types of big trees, giving shades and traces of time. The tamarind trees, which obviously is much older than 30 years now. And again, not only the built structure or the tree itself, but I think what is most valuable here is the space between those buildings and trees, which is not easy to find nowadays space. And also again, the famous photo spots. So what we propose to the client is that the maze, which is at the back of the site, and it is next to a very old and deteriorated buildings. So we propose that those areas should be kept for the next phases, but the focus should be on the central area where the cafe was to be built, and which is now being used as the overflow car park, as you can see at the red area in the center. And these red lines here are the roads that were used for service, together with the walkway, and also some earth walkway at the back in the dark line here. What we propose is that we, first thing is we want to create the experience of the new visitors, that they will be walking through the different eras of curing barns before they arrive at the cafe. as you can see that at the car park on the top, and then you walk down to the cafe, and then you enter to this central area, which we think that what is needed here is the orientation points, because the area is big, and the focus area will be like somewhat in the middle, and then the path, the walkway, and the direction of circulation will be scattered around. So one big major space is needed, not only for orientations, but also for the multi-purpose use. And also we propose to minimize the vehicular access. The red area is limited to this outside space, and then inside will be only the pedestrian allowed. So this is the new proposed plan. You will see that the white box number 10, which is the trading house, and number 5 was the previously the car park was turned into a flat ground amphitheater. We flattened the land to make it usable, and surrounded by this simple amphitheater just to mark it, to make it visible from surroundings, and then to make it as the central meeting point, as you can see from the aerial photo here. And this central space would act as the orientation spot. Either you go to the photo spot next to the Green Hotel, or you walk to the other walkways that is passing by the different areas of the building. You will always remember this big space and come back to it. So this is the process that we designed. We think that this facade of the old trading house is very good, and it can be a very good backdrop for the events here. So we propose to keep it, flatten the ground, lower it a little bit, so that when you are down there, you look up and look around, and you look at the big trees, you look at the different buildings, and found yourself in the center of the space. And it proved that quite practical, so to say, for the multi-purpose use. This is the photo before the construction, during construction, and after completion. All the trees are kept, and a few numbers of new trees are planted. The use during the holidays, it became very popular. And at the night time, it can become space for movie, or for banquets, or even just like something big, open, green, calm to look at from the cafe or from the hotel. We still keep some of the undeveloped old curing barns, and provide the adventurous path and walkway if you like to have some adventures and feel maybe a little bit thrill and spooky in this old area. We still keep it as it is, just to clean it up, make it safe for people to go there. And I'm sure that those old curing barns are waiting to be utilized and to be given life once again. I think that with minimal approach, minimal intervention, we try to keep everything, the building, the trees, the space, the atmosphere, and keep it as it is, and do as little as possible so that it became like the unpainted canvas for people to go there, to use to enjoy themselves, and obviously to take selfies, which is quite a successful spot for people to come. More and more people are coming to the place, so much as that the cafe itself was overwhelmed. At first, when the client want to utilize the selfie business here, he charged the money for people to come into the place just to take photos, and they will pay for the ticket at the entrance point, and they will get a coupon for the drinks at the cafe. But at one point that more people were coming, that the cafe itself couldn't cope with the numbers of the people. The client made a very bold move that he said that he will open this space to be the public, privately owned public space for people to come here freely. And not only that, but some of the weekends and holidays, the local markets were set up for the communities to come here and to trade their craft without charging any money. But again, that in the future, the client has more plan. Think with its popularity and become more well known. Started from the cafe and museums that PAVA architect has designed. The client are planning for more restaurants, workshop space, even the chocolate shop to be located in those old curing barns. It has got many good reviews from the selfie and from the young people who go there and enjoy the space. But one of the best review that we received is from the mother who children took her there, and she said that she only enjoyed the open space and the quietness. And I think the selfie business may come and go, but the space itself and the value of the building and the trees that will be bigger, more mature, and more valuable as time passes will prevail. Thank you. I have the small little video that I'd like to share with you as the conclusion of my presentation today.